Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio App. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
More than 1 million people in the Americas have now died from complications from the COVID-19, the head of the Pan American Health Organization has said. There is growing pressure on hospital capacity throughout North America, Al Jazeera reports. In some U.S. states, nearly 80% of ICU beds are being used to treat COVID-19 patients, and similar rates are seen in many Mexican states, Carissa Etienne warned. The hospital situation in Brazil is particularly worrying, with 3/4 of ICU beds occupied in many Brazilian states.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Lock in fresh juice with the newest hip-hop and R&B.
Every Wednesday night from 9 to 11 p.m.
on Rainier Avenue Radio.
You know we got the dopest artists rocking with us every single week. It's myself, D Money.
Taylor Hart.
And Pint-Sized Patron. This is Fresh Juice every Wednesday. It's Trilltopia.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
You're listening to Heartbeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Heartbeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color, we're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through Heartbeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Heartbeat Radio. It is the first Wednesday of the month of February. It is Black History Month. I'm going to jump right into the show because we have Representative Jamila Taylor on with us for just the first half. Let me first introduce back in co-host with me today. Joy Stanford is joining us. And then, hey, Joy. And then let me just welcome the esteemed Representative Jamila Taylor. She is recently elected into the state legislature this past November. She is the chair of the Black Caucus for Washington State, and we are going to get to hear, excited and honored to have her. I call her Reverend Taylor. When you hear her speak, you'll know why. Let's welcome Representative Jamila Taylor back on the Heartbeat. Hey.
Thank you. I clearly need to upgrade my backgrounds because when a tree falls on your house, you forget that you have to do community work, and this is not it.
You are forgiven. You are forgiven. No worries.
It's okay. We see a wall. I mean, you can see my entire office. I don't have a background, so. We just have one of our listeners saying, hey, Jamila, enjoy her Emerge sisters. I'm not an Emerge sister, but I'm going to claim to be part of this group.
We're going to snatch you up. Don't worry.
That's right.
A hard snatch. I do want to honor your time tonight. I do want to openly thank you. I know you guys are in session right now, and so it does not fall on deaf ears for me that I know that you are working 20 hours a day. So let me just thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I want to first hear, what has it been like for you being in office for about a month now?
It's a humbling experience that is also very, very lonely, because if you could imagine, I'm in my basement, my mama's basement, and I'm doing everything from here. So I've not met all of my colleagues. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the work that is done in the legislature is by getting to know your colleagues, finding out about their passions, your passions, what your district needs. And so those conversations that happen in the hallway aren't happening. Those impromptu conversations that you can have with constituents who come to visit you on campus are not happening in the same way. So it's very linear. Like, I'll have a meeting scheduled from 7 a.m. all the way till 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. And it is exhausting, but it's well worth it because the community, they need us, and they need us to act pretty quickly on things.
Can you, there is so much, and I don't expect you to have answers on everything because I know you're just jumping into it. I just thought, since it's Black History Month, and you have made, you're a difference maker in the state for being one of the first Black women elected into the House. And I know that the caucus might just be trying to get their hands around everything, all these different issues. Are you able to share, have y'all met? Have you developed any sort of priorities that you want to be working on? Can you just kind of?
Yeah, I'd love to share. So what I'd like to do is give you a picture of, getting started with the ledge. I was elected as the Black Members Caucus chair this year in January, and then the next day there was an insurrection. And we're still continuing our training. We haven't been sworn in yet, and Black Caucus members and the members of Color Caucus members were really concerned about our safety going to the Capitol for the first day. So when you're seeing an insurrection happen in DC, and then you're in a training, you're literally watching the governor's mansion be breached. Yeah. You might be a little bit frustrated that, are we as legislators going to be protected? And so we mobilized immediately to say, look, we need extra security, extra services, make sure that not just the members of Color Caucus, Black Members Caucus are protected, but all of us as legislators are able to go and do the work for the people. And so, as you could probably tell, 750 National Guardsmen were added to the security details with the Washington State Patrol, House security, Senate security. And so, going into that body when it's the only day we came in person to vote so that we can work virtually, we hit the ground running and building our influence. And that seems like a small thing, but at the end of the day, we have an important role to play, and we really want to make sure that the people of Washington State are taken care of, and in particular, Black community is taken care of at the same time. So we don't want our voices to be missed out in the overall policy making. And when we have a House Democratic Caucus that prioritize racial equity, COVID response, economic recovery, and environmental justice as its 4 priorities for this session, this year, we are using our influence to ensure that Black people, folks of the African diaspora, are part of that conversation, and inclusion is not just a word on paper.
I am glad you spoke to the safety, because that was going to be my question, is how you all felt going back after, the breach of the governor's mansion. So thank you for speaking to that. That was going to be one of my questions.
It's, think about it right now. You have children out here in the community who have been out of school, and they're connected through the internet, through Zoom, through TikTok and other things. And these children are emboldened to make threats against our children. Racial terrorism is going on. So if you imagine, if we were concerned about our safety, imagine our kids who are going to be going back to school, who have been terrorized the entire time. Our president, our former president, my mama would say, your president, it was not my president, had created this whole sense of entitlement to do and say whatever you wanted in our community. And our children, our Black children, are really concerned about returning to the campus and being terrorized by peers who just are isolated, who are making bad decisions, are actually living into the belief that that's okay behavior, and that's not okay.
Representative Taylor, let me ask you some more questions. I'm working on making sure I address you by title too, just so you know, because I do know you as Jamila, and but I also know what it takes to get into office. So I am going to honor that when I speak with you. You talked about in your 4 priorities, the first one being racial equity. Can you elaborate more on what you mean about like which systems? Are you talking specifically about education, or can you talk more about what you guys are thinking in that space?
So in terms of the Black Members Caucus, we have the largest group of legislators, Black legislators in Washington State's history, with 9. And 8 of us are on the House side and 1 is on the Senate side. And don't make me list out everyone. It's almost like I got to count them on my fingers. And that's a great problem to have. So we are prioritizing, first and foremost, police accountability and police reforms. And there's a package of 11 or 12 bills that were whittled down from 60 bills that are around accountability, investigation, community engagement, and making sure that our Black lives actually matter. You know, when Black Lives Matter as a movement has been, inspired by or reacted to the attacks on Black bodies out in the community by law enforcement across the country and around the world, we have to live into the moment and respond to it. I-940 wasn't enough. We have to continue. One of the statistics is that there have been 100 people murdered by law enforcement, killed by law enforcement since I-940 was passed. 89 of them, I believe, were people of color. That's an overrepresentation. So our lives matter. And so we have prioritized the police accountability reform bills this year. And we definitely want to make sure that those are on the forefront of how we are serving community. And think about it. Black Lives Matter was just nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it is a civil rights movement that is more far-reaching than what may have happened, what did happen in the 1960s, which was inspirational for where we are right now. Not to take away the legacy that our fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers, don't forget the grandmothers and the mothers who, yes.
You'll be in trouble.
I know, like, some of my favorite civil rights workers are the unsung heroes. So think about that. And that's often, the women in our movements too.
Have you had opportunity yet? I know, I can appreciate the isolation and the working in your basement with your beautiful wall behind you. I'm assuming, it's just February and session goes through April, mid-April, correct?
It does. We're in it for a hot minute, and I've heard rumors of possible special session. So that could take us into a longer term. And I will tell you, most of us don't want to be stuck in our basements that long.
The question I was going to ask around that is what will it take to influence the change for police reform and police accountability? What will that require in Olympia to have happen on your part?
There has been immense stakeholder work that's been done by community. And my seatmate, Rep. Jesse Johnson, has led the way as part of a bicameral group of legislators addressing this challenge. We do have a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, and a Democrat as the governor. And so we have an incredible amount of influence to move these bills in ways that we may not have had in the past. But there's still many, many members in the community who are in districts where their representatives don't take this seriously. They are, thinking that this is not the time. This is not an issue for them or their community. And so it really does take a lot of community response and continuing to influence legislators across the state. They need to hear from you. Those emails that come in saying vote in favor of X, Y, and Z, it does matter. If you can just sign in to testify on a bill when it's before a committee, sign in. You don't necessarily have to be on screen, because I think a couple of the bills, there was like 1,300 people who signed in not testifying. That matters. The folks can participate in this effort. And I think we're at a really interesting inflection point where people they feel more connected to our legislative process. And so we're seeing that activity.
I have you pause just a second? I'm getting text messages that we have technical problems. To my producer, are you on and are you aware that we have a black screen showing? I'm just trying to. All right, I don't know if we have stopped or not. It looks like
I see everybody.
Okay, I'm going to keep.
We see you.
I've got
He said not at all. He said not at all. Cindy, he said not at all. He says we're good.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Representative Taylor.
Oh, no worries. Well, you can keep going.
You know, when you're preaching, the world needs to hear. And look, I've heard you when you go, so I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure.
You know, I want to ask Representative Taylor. I know we're friends, but I think it's respectful to address you like that. So, how can we continue to help? I know you said signing in and coming on, but Cindi has a huge platform here. Yeah. I'm just her co-host. I come on to hang out with her. But how can we continue to support and help you with these issues on this platform, and just as people in our community? Cindi out north of Seattle, me out here on the peninsula. How can we continue to help address those issues?
Well, now that the BMC is beginning to form, we're finding ways of connecting with community so that you'll feel a way to follow up on things that matter to you. Because, you know, there are other challenges that we're facing, you know, the disproportionate impact of COVID on our community. So we need to make sure that we have voices talking about the health equity issues. All the BMC members are really passionate, but we're not experts in all things. And so your participation, sending us a note, sending us emails, asking for meetings, participating in your union or whatever advocacy group, letting us know that you are passionate about an issue and participating in the process. So there's so many different ways. In terms of this radio show, continue to have Black Member Caucus legislators come to your show and share how they're doing, what they're doing throughout the session and throughout the whole year, because there's a lot of work that we put in between sessions. That stakeholder work is critical to build that buy-in, to help folks on board with really bold legislation. I mean, with, you know, tax reform that's being done by non-BMC members, but we're supportive of it because we have such a regressive tax system. How do we support the things that match our values? And so you know, if you're passionate about tax policy and you're, you know, a member of the Black community, please share that information with the chair of the Finance Committee. If you're someone who's, you know, passionate about the health equity issues, share that with the chair of the Health and Wellness Committee. I mean, these are folks who are not of the Black diaspora, but they need to hear from you and your perspective. And one of the things that I've noticed is that not all of our legislators have the muscle memory to ask those racial equity questions. And so when a community is asking it and making sure that those kinds of responses are top of mind and actually implemented into policy and budget making process, I think we'll have even more of an impact. It can't just be our voice. It has to be community-driven voice.
You know, to that point, do any of our listeners, I'm getting text messages from folks listening. So do any of our listeners, we've only have Representative Taylor for the first half of the show. And so are there questions that any of you want her to answer while she's here? She's advocating to hear from us. And so it's a given on this platform. I'm not letting up off the throttle on change. And so I'm happy to have you legislators come on and talk with us. And we're also an extension of you out here in the community to do the work and help you. So do any of our listeners want to call in? The number is on the top of your screen. It's 206-290-9685 in my blind eyes. Or you can message us on the feed and we can ask her.
Mm-hmm. And while we're waiting for folks to call in, I would want to acknowledge that African American Lobby Day, African American Legislative Day, is on February 15th. It's every year. It is on President's Day, and so they're going to move it to a platform that's virtual, and it's being hosted by and organized by the A. Philip Randolph Institute of Seattle. And so these folks have been working on this for 20 plus years. And I'm excited that the Black Members Caucus is going to have an hour to talk to people during the lunch hour. That's a busy day for us. We're actually doing our day jobs that day, and we were able to carve out an hour of their day-long program.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you also share with the community who all the members of the Black Caucus are?
Oh, she's doing this to me. Okay.
Like, don't ask me that. Don't ask me that.
Is that what she said earlier? Don't ask me, because I can remember a few of them. So I know we have.
Okay. So I'm going to hold my hands up. April Berg is from the 44th District. Her seatmate is John Lovick. We have Kirsten Harris Talley out of the 37th District. We have David Hackney out of the 11th District. We have Representative Deborah Intiman out of the 47th District. We have Representative Melanie Morgan out of the 29th District. I always mix it up with the 26th, and I can't do that. We have my seatmate, Representative Johnson, out of the 30th District. So we actually have two districts where we have two Black representatives. And think about it. Those are majority white districts in the suburbs. Think about that. And then we have Senator Tawana Nobles out of the 28th District. And so we have a wide representation in the Puget Sound, and we have a missing person. We need someone to come from Eastern Washington and on the peninsula too. So we have a challenge.
I tried, Representative Taylor. I've tried twice.
Seattle also. So
exactly. Well, it's gonna happen. We're gonna make it happen, Miss Joy. We're gonna make it happen. Okay. Okay. But there's very much an interest and a desire to make sure that Eastern Washington and folks who are not in King County or Pierce County, Black folks are heard and have their perspectives as part of our platform as well.
Awesome. Yes.
Thank you for including us out here.
Yes. And the vice chair of the Black Members Caucus is Kirsten Harris Talley. So between her and myself, we are just, rocking and rolling and making sure that we're listening to folks. I mean, right now it's really about listening to folks as we are new legislators, and we now have the authority to do things that we didn't have before January 10th when we were sworn in.
Well, believe it or not, you look like before the election, you were exhausted. Like I could see it in your face when I was on some of those calls with you. You were wiped. So you at least look happier. And maybe that's because you're in your element now, doing the work and not having to deal with the chaos of running for office. But you definitely look happy and good.
Thank you.
The question
I feel like this is the comfort zone, coming here to be with you and Joy. Like, knowing that you have the best interests of our community at heart, and you have a really unique perspective that you help folks understand that Black people don't have the same ideas, that we're not a monolith. I mean, like I explained on the campaign trail, I ran against a Black Trump supporting Republican. That's not exactly what you would think of, monolith. Our ideas could be no further apart than her ideas and my ideas.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us what the best part. Maybe that's a question. What's been the either the best or surprising to you as an elected official?
my favorite part is always connecting with community. The most surprising part is that I actually respond to representative now. Like, that's my new first name, and it doesn't make me feel comfort, but I certainly feel the weight of community. I'm sure that as a Black legislator, as a Black leader, we feel that every single day, and so I think the awesome responsibility to think about how we get the work done. One thing that I think is surprising is that there's strategy in everything. We could hit the ground running and put in every ideal bill out there, but sometimes it's better to strategize and bring community along with you than just charge in there like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, I have no doubt you're going to represent everyone in your district and represent all of us as a whole in Washington State, and do good work for all of us here. So thank you for being there and doing the work.
It's just from a personal level, I'm just so excited to see you and the others down there.
Yes,
almost can't even put it into words, because I think, Joy and I both ran, and both of us took some pretty big beatings. Yeah. And so we understand the pain and the process of just to be able to get there. And so, God, from my heart to yours, thank you for doing this work. I have no desire to do what you're doing anymore. And so I'm humbly at your exposure to help you in any way I can, but because it takes a special person to do that work. So I really appreciate everything you're doing.
The thing that I ask for most is grace, because, we don't know everything, and we don't know what we don't know. And there are always folks who, as you know, as a woman, in particular in modern society, people will give you advice and you didn't ask for it. And it doesn't fit your life or your value system. And so asking for grace is something that I'm really doing more often now, because it's not perfect. I'm not perfect, and I'm going to make mistakes. And so, I can't solve everyone's problems. I can't even solve all of my own problems, but I'm here to work towards a better tomorrow for all of us.
We have a question from a listener asking, will there be a discussion about changing the educational system to reflect true American history? And can you answer that in 60 seconds?
In 60 seconds, I think if we're incorporating more Black history, more ethnic history, from the BIPOC perspective, I think that would be critical in terms of reflection of true history. It's a loaded question, depending on what room you're in. But for me, it really does. In terms of Black History Month, I'm always going to advocate for more Black history, because, that's me.
There's just so much to unpack with everything. I have my own. And when you hear my show come on, do you hear my fight is in corporate America, right? My fight is racial equity around access to higher earning jobs and bonus structures and all the systems that are keeping us out that. So that's my battle out here, but and I'm not letting up off that throttle anytime soon.
I want to be back on your show to talk about that, because I'm on the Community and Economic Development Committee, and there are a lot of conversations that we need to have.
I will definitely have you back. I've actually reached out to a few of the legislators before session starts, trying to give them some insight, because I spent 30 years in HR, and so the inner workings of it are things I want to make sure I equip you all with, because I think there are deeper things that the outside world doesn't understand what's at play internally on how we're being kept down. In fact, you may not know it, but I have a book coming out this spring, and I talk about those sorts of things in my book about that oppressive system. And I'm calling for some major radical change to corporate America. And so I'm going to be talking more about that with Joy on the second half of the show. I know we're out of time. Representative Taylor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
On your schedule today. I'm humbly grateful for you. I do give you grace. I'll ping you maybe in another month or so when you guys are getting closer towards the end of session, so we have a better understanding. But I know on behalf of our community, thank you for coming on and sharing what you can with us today. your sisters are behind you here. So thank you so
Bird
much.
Sisters Rally.
Thank
Woo!
you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to snatch you up.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We're going to just take a quick station identification. We'll be back right after the break.
By Jamila, Representative Jamila Taylor.
For everybody that's black.
Thank you. All right. So I will see you later, Joy. I'll check in with you later. Okay.
Yo.
Oh, yes, it's ladies' night. This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. When I'm not trying out new wigs and cocktail dresses, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle-King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African-American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
States are gradually and cautiously loosening their coronavirus restrictions on restaurants and other businesses as infection numbers begin to improve. While the easing could cause rates to rise, health experts say it can work if the public remains vigilant about masks and social distancing, AP reports. The COVID-19 death toll in the U.S. has climbed past 425,000. with the number of beds still running at close to all-time highs at nearly 3,350 a day. But newly confirmed cases have dropped over the past 2 weeks from an average of about 248,000 per day to around 166,000. And the number of people hospitalized has fallen by tens of thousands to 109,000.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
That up in Saks, our favorite black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
Welcome back to Heartbeat Radio. This is your host, Cindi Bright. My co-host, Joy Stanford, is with me again tonight. We just got through having Representative Jamila Taylor, the chair of the Washington State Black Caucus, on, giving us just some initial updates on kind of what the priorities are at the state of Washington for the Black community. So, but before we jump to the second half of the show, you know, I was thinking earlier today that I think we just all need a little bit of a chuckle and a laugh because, and so I didn't know if the community saw this video, but I'm going to have the producer put up this video that was on CNN a couple of nights ago, just for a great laugh about, since it's Black History Month. And so, Daniel, can you show that video that I sent you?
Omarosa, Manigault, New.
It's Black History Month. We got to talk about Omarosa. All right. I'm just saying, look, it is Black History Month, okay? Carter G. Woodson did not go to the mat to get Negro History Week that eventually turned into Black History Month for us to talk about Omarosa on her apology tour and her attempt to salvage her reputation on a reality television show. Not during Black History Month, guys. This is a fact. Scott, you gonna back me up?
All right.
I thought, Joy, had you seen that?
I think I saw it on Facebook at some point. Somebody had reposted it, and it just I was more cracking up. The white guy was like, I got nothing to say. He was like, I'm staying out of it.
I thought it was the funniest thing because Don was so tickled he couldn't grab his breath. And I just love the fact that maybe it's just because I'm still celebrating.
Is this what we really gonna talk about? Oh, Black History Month, really? Is that what you're talking about? Is this
we spent the last 4 years dealing with so much drama that it just feels refreshing to be able to laugh a little bit about
it does absolutely,
especially about Black community stuff, right? And so the Amoroso thing is hilarious. So
that is hilarious. I love that. But she's right. I'm like, I feel like we don't have the dread when we wake up in the morning. I don't know about you, but I don't have that. All right, what happened today? Because I don't watch the news normally. I've only started watching CNN and MSNBC again. I just had to stop. I don't watch the local news, but maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the very beginning of Channel 7. I
was trying to lighten things up a little bit.
I love it. That was perfect. So
I was happy to have it's Representative, I keep wanting to say Jamila, to have her on to listen to. Did you agree that she looked incredibly happy? And
yes,
I saw her. She was just so wiped and stressed.
But you know how that campaign trail can treat you. You already know that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially towards the end, we are done. So yes, I was glad to see her. We had just exchanged text messages briefly last week. And so I'm very happy to see her smiling and talking about all this great stuff. And, again, I don't know about you, but it just gives me hope and such joy to see the largest amount of Black legislators, and I'm including House and Senate. And we've only got one on the Senate, but that's the beginning. There to have that lens, not that our other folks don't, but just to make sure we've got that lens and do the work that needs to be done for our communities. So,
well, I was glad that she, when I mentioned about, the corporate America, that's my burr under my saddle, right? And so I have all these idioms. My son would give me a hard time over just saying that. But Black History Month, look, 2 days ago on the 1st of February, let me back up. After the George Floyd murder, corporate America published a statement, and it's for our listeners, you can look at it on employers, it's employersforequity.org, and it's the number 4, employersforequity.org, and it's most every major corporation signed a document that talked about racial equity and so forth, and the things that they were and they put a 10-year roadmap in place. I'm just shaking my head on the 10-year thing as we're dying in the streets every day. But here's what really struck me this week. What struck me on Black History Month, the first day, is I went onto that website and I printed up every single one of those CEOs that signed that document. And I went through every single one of their websites to see had anybody spoken out about Black History Month. 71 CEOs signed the document, but 5 organizations made statements about Black History Month. And so I was so agitated at that about just this whole notion that we keep finding ourselves in the same pattern of behavior of white America, corporate America is white America, making these comments that they care about our lives, but they're not recognizing even celebratory days because they're staying in their safe zone. It's what they do.
But don't you think that was just a check of the box to do that?
Yeah.
That equity statement. Oh, let's sign on. Check.
But yes, but what's appalling is that you can't, everything that's going on around us. I mean, how long do they believe that they can afford to stay silent or in the safe zone? And so one of my curiosities is why I asked Representative Taylor about it is if they can't make the change, we're going to have to force them to do it. And we're gonna have to force some things to happen because anyhow, it's my burr, and I'm just tired of watching the inaction and the slow to make change and lifetimes of roadmaps. I mean, I spent 3 decades looking at roadmaps that,
we're going nowhere.
We're going nowhere. That, yeah. Yes.
Come on. You can give us a roadmap, but where's that going to take us? And how long is it going to take me to get there? Is this an impossible journey to make? If you want somebody to ascend in your corporation, how can we make that happen? And how can we empower those folks to they themselves get moving on that journey? So yeah, I'm done with it.
There was a glimmer, and glimmer is a strong word. A glimmer of hope that I saw this week was the Liz Cheney decision, right? The Liz Cheney decision to vote for impeachment of Trump against the party.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's going to take way more for me to ever trust a Republican again, but it does take a first, and she took a step, and she is getting lashed at by her own party. And so I'm going to be fascinated to see how that.
I was watching it earlier today. They kept her with her powers. So they left her in leadership roles. So I was happy to see that. Mm-hmm. Again, I still don't trust a whole lot of them at the federal level. Maybe not at any level, but definitely not at the federal level, because I'm still trying to figure out which one of y'all knew all this was going to happen on the 6th of January. It was January, the insurrection. Who was texting, telling them where to find folks and which way to turn and what hallway to go down? Who was doing that? But then on the flip side, we are not Representative Green. We are not calling her out. She got a standing ovation today. How does that work? How does that work?
It works.
Yes, I do. Karen.
I was waiting, Joy. I was trying.
Representative Karen Green. Yes, girl. We see you. We hear you loud and clear with QAnon crap. Come on. I'm just done. I'm just like, I'm like Don Lemon and the Cuomo guy. He's like, what is that? I didn't even heard of these people. I'm like, I have no idea. But there's some fascinating interviews on today. People who came out and said, I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole. I don't know how I went down that conspiracy rabbit hole. So it's like, oh, honey. But here's the thing that scares me is when we're talking about like your book coming out, corporate America, communities right here in Washington State, school boards, city councils, county commissions, county councils. These people have slithered in. They have slithered in. They do not have the heart for this work. Why are you doing this work? If you're just here to promote hate and divisiveness, then why are you here? And so that's what do you think? That's kind of my thing right now is who are these folks and calling them out and showing who they really are.
What do you think? Like, it's so hard for me to, because I don't think any of us will ever understand, because it's not logical, anything that is happening. It's not. And for those of us who can think logically, you can't even. So what is going on inside of their heads? What is driving that? It's so crazy and preposterous and people believe it. And
that's my thing. People believe it. Like one girl said they were it was gonna be a blackout on the inauguration. And I was like going on my computer. I'm like, what kind of a blackout? And all the celebrities that were going to be at the inauguration were going to be arrested, and all the Democrats were going to be arrested. And I was like, who said that? When was what? I have no idea. But again, it's not based in reality. And I want those folks to come out of that and listen with critical thinking skills if they can, and really hear, because again, a lot of people were interviewed today. They found a lot of people who said, I just had to come out of that rabbit hole. And when I came out, I was like, nothing they said was going to happen happened. And then, but I did hear somebody say, if our last president had come out and said, everything these QAnon people and conspiracy people are saying is not true, they would have believed him.
Yeah, it's insane. It's just insane.
So where's the logic in that?
I also saw today that, you know, and I guess I just have mixed feelings on it because it's another burr under me, but the notion of President Biden has been trying to negotiate with them on the stimulus package. And I saw something today about the way it has just basically been cleared for him to just, for the Democrats to vote on it here soon. Because
can't we just do it? I'm like, we going rogue. Y'all went rogue for 4 years.
Yeah.
We bring it to you. We say, let's talk about it. You guys don't want to talk about it. You want to come out with your own stuff. We're going rogue. We're
So the weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that go by that people need help. And
thank you.
Continue to listen to that. I saw our legislature approved, was it $2 million or $2 billion today? I caught it quickly just to get.
I did not see that.
Back out to help businesses and people. And, you know, it's just such a crisis. And we are now in February. And when did the last stimulus come out? Was it April, May, June? I don't even remember when.
Well, I got a card in the mail in January.
Last year?
No, this year.
Oh, this year. Okay, I don't know. So okay,
I'm on unemployment, so maybe they saw that. They felt bad for me or something. But we got the card in January, and then we got money late last year, and then we got money early last year. I think. I'm not sure. But I love that our state is setting forth as a priority to help our businesses. And I hope to be able to support local businesses here in Pierce County and Kitsap County, because our businesses are hurting. Our mom and pop shops are closing up. You know, we talked about that early on. Yes, Sonora, you're right. There's fear out there. Absolutely. So in order to curb that, I think this administration that we have federally has come out and said, we're going to just go forth and help. And then statewide here, we've got really good people that are prioritizing helping folks in this pandemic and economic development or economic recovery quickly as we can.
You know, I agree, but we opened up, we're doing the phase. I don't even know what phase it is.
I don't know what phase it is. Don't ask me.
Yeah. You know, the restaurants are opening back up, but the other variant of the strain I'm just exhausted of this, and I'm scared that with the restaurant, I don't know how many of them can survive. You just keep reading about the ones that are shutting doors down permanently.
Right.
I know I have zero intentions of setting foot inside of any of them until I know my behind is safe.
Right, exactly.
So it's just,
it's a lot of our people of color businesses too. I had gone into a beauty supply in Tacoma, and she could not get help because she was a brand new business, and one of the conditions or guidelines or rules, whatever you want to call it, to gaining help and support or grants or money was that you had to have tax documents from the previous year. If you're a new business, you don't have that.
Or another, I'm in the middle of trying to get my second draw for my business. And you do have to have all this 2019 stuff. Right. And you're in a double, for me personally, I'm just it's just such a nightmare to navigate because of what is required. And everything costs money, right? So if I can't even articulate it. I'm just trying to get my own stuff done too, to hold on to to keep myself floating too. It's just, It's crazy.
But there's no team of people out here helping. I mean, you're pretty, advanced technically, Cindi. So, you kind of like, who do I go to? I know who to go to. I know what I need to do. It might take me a while. It's still a headache. It's a lot of paperwork. But then you think those mom and pop people that have been in business 20, 30, 40 years, they are not technically able to do all of the things. And there's nobody set up any kind of, I don't want to say commission or group to help field those calls that I've seen from the businesses to say, here's how we can help you work through that paperwork.
Yeah.
And so that's the tough part, because even someone that was a friend of mine's mom had to close her business here in Gig Harbor, a mail and copy place, because she just couldn't make it work by herself. And, she's over 60. Why is she going to be trying to do that by herself? So,
yeah. Yes. What a time.
It's a headache.
I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hanging in there and things are flowing for me. So far I am surviving. I don't want to just be in survival mode. I want to be in a thriving mode. So
there you go.
Just to get us there, but just hanging in there, getting this dang book done. I'm getting this.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book.
Well, it's coming, this mode is intense, and but I do like I'll just drip a few things. Did I drip that I have the 10 commandments of the GOB that are part of my book?
Oh no.
The tips, I'm just reading notes here. Look, I hear some background noise too. It's not coming from my house because I live alone. So anyhow, the 10 commandments of the GOB, and the GOB are the good old boys. And so I am talking about, I'm talking about corporate America in a huge way. And so I think people are going to get some really, they're going to get some good laughs, and there's going to be some high fives, and there's going to be some when they read this, because I think most Black women deal with the things that I talk about in the book. So it's coming. It will be done here next month. And so then there's a process once all the editing is done to get the back cover done. And so blah, 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 blah. And then I will do a public relations kind of tour, if you will. And I talked to one of our local Black-owned PR firms here who's going to represent me and help me with that. And then I am looking to do some national stuff with it too. So that's in the works.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about. Promoting us and putting us out there.
I really want to do it. I want to release it at a winery because my book is told through a bottle of wine, but God only knows how
we could do that.
And if we do, only 10 people can come. So that may not work out. We'll see. I'll figure out the timing of all of that. But
yeah. Well, I'm going through my own thing, looking for a job. So it's been pretty interesting.
Say more about that.
I had some reservations about applying for a specific job because I was pretty sure they knew who I was. I was pretty sure they knew I was a Black woman. And, I questioned whether or not they would want a Black woman to be representing them in this community. But I've also had some really good feedback and really good interviews. But then, you get the email where you're like, well, we wanted someone more local. And, I'm like, oh, really? Okay. That's a little disappointing on that one, but it's just moving forward.
That's short-sighted because
a little bit.
What is local? I mean, what is local in a pandemic?
Exactly. I've got a passion for the work. And so I hoped that would come through more. So it was a little surprising, but it's okay. I just wanted some feedback, and I got it, and it was very nice. So I was happy about that. But I worry. I worry about our women of color who are in corporate America and how they're faring. And I think we're doing good work.
People in general, I spoke to one last week. Harvard, educated, has been very successful, and he has been marginalized to changing font sizes on presentations. And I hear these stories all the time about the marginalization of Black people when we get into these corporations and try to do work and elevate or rise or be heard or give ideas or I don't know if you pay attention to like some of my videos that I put on.
I do, yeah.
I talk about the life cycle of the Black woman, right? Like we're the shiny penny when you hire us. We want to hire you because we've met our quota, and then as soon as we come in,
you got the 3 R's,
right? Then that's when things start to happen, and so it's predictable. And I've been in 3 major companies. It's the same thing. So.
Stand straight up.
I've got noise coming through the show. I think they're setting up in the Columbia City Theater because following my show, we have Josephine Howell is performing. So I think that's what's going on. Yeah. So But anyhow, I was glad to have. Before we wrap, I was really glad to have Representative Taylor on tonight.
She said we should invite more of them. So I think we should just get a list going.
Yeah,
because they're all on different committees. And
I was trying to give them a little bit of grace. We have a comment, work from home should not bother.
Love that. We need to hang out with Sonoria. And if I am saying your name wrong, I am so sorry. We need to hang out with her.
Her short name is Snow. So
Snow.
She is such a gem.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a gem for sure. Anyhow,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, she's on every week helping, and I just so appreciate her. Yes. Anyhow, we're almost at the hour, and I think they're getting ready to go live down at Columbia City Theater. I'm trying to think if there's any other. There is, just for our listeners. Joy, first off, thank you for coming back on with me.
Always. Anything for you, my friend. Anything for you.
I love you. It's so fun to have you here co-hosting with me.
Good.
To our listeners who joined tonight, thank you so much for tuning in to Heartbeat Radio every week. Thank you for listening to us talk smack, talk about what's real. Have our community leaders come in and talk with us about what's happening because they're representing us. And so I will be in touch with more of the legislators more towards the end of the session when they have a lot more to give us. So stay tuned. Following Heartbeat Radio, we are jumping over to the Columbia City Theater to hear Josephine Howell live. I look forward to seeing everybody next week. So have a good week and a good evening, everybody. Bye, Joy.
Bye, sweetie pie.
That up in Saks, I favor Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yo.